Oh, he's going to prison for life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Done. I mean, it's as easy as that.
Yeah.
In this fictional world, had that fictionally happened, it's the highest level of assault that you can have.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Doug Defends, the show where a real lawyer talks about fake things. I am Billy Business, and I am sitting here with... What's your name? So sorry, what's your name? It doesn't matter what your name is!
Oh, that's a wrestling thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
cool.
Doug.
Okay.
This is the face of a man who is just now realizing what he's gotten himself into for the next hour.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. You have watched shows for me, and we definitely have had Doug-centric shows
Sure, yeah.
on my request. And you said you wanted to do WWE, and I said, of course, my friend, no problem.
Looking through all the research that we're going to talk about today,
Yeah.
I would say this spans so many different legal topics that some of them I don't know if we would ever touch upon otherwise.
I agree with you 100%.
So I'm excited.
See, was that believable?
Yeah.
See, I'm practicing.
Wow.
I've got a folding chair over here too, so don't get too funny.
Okay. Let's not get too aggressive yet. But I have a feeling there might be some people like you who are maybe not wrestling fans, or they knew Hulk Hogan in the 80s or The Rock, Stone Cold, but they don't really know wrestling. So I think before we get started, we should just all be on the same page with some of the terms of wrestling, because there is kind of wrestling speak, and a lot of it is going to be important and come back. So let's put up that fancy little graphic right now that has all the words. So a heel is your bad guy. That's
Okay.
it. Very simple.
Good to know.
A baby face or a face, that's your good guy. Okay?
Oh, why baby?
Because of the,
Oh, baby face.
The
good guy. All right,
baby face.
All right.
An angle, that's just another word for a storyline, right?
Okay.
They shot an angle. They shot a storyline where they did this. Right?
Okay.
So this is where it's going to become important. A work is something that they want you to think is real, but it's 100% planned. Like, let's say a wrestler gets put through a table and the EMTs come out and they put him on a stretcher and they take him out. And then once the camera stops rolling, he takes the thing off, gets off the stretcher. He's fine. That's a work.
Okay.
They're trying to work the audience into believing that thing is real. A shoot, that is something that happens that was not part of the script. It was not supposed to happen. We see that a lot, mostly in promos. There's a famous promo before last year's WrestleMania. Tiffany Stratton, Charlotte Flair. Buttons were pushed. Tiffany took it a little too far. She referenced Charlotte's real-life divorce, and the whole thing went way off the rails. That's a shoot. Or sometimes you'll see there's a very famous one. Braun Strowman, a big guy, was going a little too fast, hitting a little too hard, and Brock Lesnar punched him in the face for real, and you could hear him yell, "Slow down." That's a shoot.
Wow.
So Kayfabe is the last one we're going to talk about. Kayfabe just means keeping the illusion of the drama, keeping the fiction. So if you're a heel and you're out in public and a kid runs up and says, "Can I have your autograph?" and you give him a hug, sure. You just broke kayfabe, because then you're going to go on TV and talk about how much you hate them. So a lot of wrestlers nowadays, it's a little bit more lax because we know a lot more. There's a lot of there's a Netflix show about like how the behind the scenes and everything. So they break kayfabe a lot, but some wrestlers do like to keep kayfabe. Seth Rollins faked a leg injury for 3 months and he worked everybody. Everybody thought it was real, but it was kayfabe. And only him and Triple H and a couple of the top guys knew that it was all kayfabe.
Wow.
So he literally...
He just needed a vacation?
No, well, it was part of a storyline, because then he had a surprise return.
Oh.
But all the dirt sheets online, all the ones that like give all the insider rumors, they got worked because he was walking around his hometown with a leg brace that wasn't real. So...
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah.
So when you say that this is a lawyer talking about fake stuff,
Right.
like it's really a lawyer, like really talking about real fake stuff.
It's kind of, this is crazy because, okay, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Because let's put this out there, by the way, too. There's a very, very dark side to this business. There's a lot of real life, horrific tragedies. The Owen Hart, Chris Benoit, Ashley Massaro, an ongoing right now criminal investigation into Vince McMahon and some of the stuff that he was doing. I think there's a civil lawsuit against him. We're not talking about any of that. And there's a great series called Dark Side of the Ring, which if you're interested in kind of learning about that, that's a fantastic documentary series. We, just like we do with anything else on the show, we talk about the storylines, as if WWE was just a narrative show, if it was Game of Thrones, except
Wow.
we're going to break our rule.
Okay.
Because there's one thing we're going to talk about.
Okay.
And it was a work.
Okay.
And then it turned into a shoot.
Okay.
It was a storyline that went too far that actually ended up in court. So
All right.
I'm going to get your thoughts on that. But we're going to start. Look, if we tried to go in chronological order of WWE storylines, we'd be here well after, thousands of years.
Okay.
So I cherry picked a couple of different things, big moments in wrestling history that we're going to talk about. So let's start with case study number 1. You ready?
Number 1.
Okay. Here we go. This is 10 years ago, 11 years ago now, as of this recording, in 2014. This was the night that Seth Rollins turned his back on the Shield. So the Shield was a group of Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose. They were like the muscle for the Authority, which was Triple H. He was in charge of everything. So he used the Shield as his authority, or as his muscle. But then they started to be like, we don't want to do what you tell us to do.
Oh, no.
So Triple H got some of his old buddies from his old group, Evolution, and Shield and Evolution were going at it back and forth.
Like they do.
Like they do. Just matches after matches. And the Shield always won, right? But then one night on Monday Night Raw, Triple H says, well, you may have beat us, but there's always a backup. And that's when Seth Rollins took that chair, hits Roman in the back, hits Dean many, many times.
Dude, so many times.
Yeah. So, okay. First, before I even counter, I watched you watch that.
You
clip.
watched me watch that clip. Yep.
That clip gets shown in court. What are we even looking
Oh,
at?
that guy's going to prison for a really, really long time. Like I'm used to, if I don't watch wrestling.
Sure.
So I'm used to seeing stuff like that on body cam video, surveillance video. And so my reaction to it was I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So had you said, this was all a big misunderstanding and that guy broke the rules, I would have believed you 100%. Like, the chair is bending. Like, this is so violent, so terrible and awful. And then I remembered, of course, that we were watching wrestling.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I think, like, you have to be pretty dense to not look at something like that and just realize, well, that's a assault and battery.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
You'd have to be pretty dense to not realize. But here's where things get interesting. And I asked this to you a while ago, and you didn't have a great answer at the time. You're like, I actually don't know. I need to think about it.
Yeah. So I hope I do now.
I hope you do too, or else this episode is click. So we see a lot in professional sports. The first thing that popped into my mind, because it's like, yeah, on its face, you see this guy going, he's retaliating against someone out of anger with a weapon. But I was watching a baseball game, and this pitcher gets angry with the batter. He's throwing at a minimum 85 mile per hour fastball intentionally to hit this guy.
Right.
To whether it's to send a message, I don't think it was to get him out of the game, but to send a message to hurt him intentionally.
Right.
He gets tossed the pitcher gets tossed.
Yes.
There's probably a fine, maybe a couple game suspension. But that discipline is all handled within the confines of MLB. And you see it like in NFL, late hits, or hockey.
Hockey
especially.
Yeah.
But everything is handled throughout the league, right?
Right.
So I guess my question is, like, is there some reason why, like, how is that pitcher not, like, how did the police not come out, stop that game, arrest that pitcher? Because the intent is fairly clear.
Yeah. I mean,
like,
you watch it. It's not like he accidentally, hit the guy in the middle of his back.
Right. No.
Yeah.
This was he was egged on.
Right. Really egged on though, and
the specific one that I sent to Doug was a couple of years back. Jared Weaver of the Angels just getting irritated. But I guess my question to you is, like, how do these leagues have the authority to self-govern, self-discipline? Like, that seems super suspect that they could basically dole out their own sense of justice and authority outside of the law.
Yeah, and some of that is because legal authorities acknowledge that there is a disciplinary system in there, and that it's not always going to be that crystal clear that the ball was intentionally thrown at the batter because he was being an idiot and wasting time and grabbing his crotch and doing all kind. I mean, like I was irritated with him, and I'm like, yeah, I'm all right with him getting hit with the ball. Every batter that comes up to plate assumes a risk that they could accidentally get hit. The rules of the game are you don't intentionally hit a batter, but they assume that risk. In football, it's the same thing. You're assuming the risk that you're going to get tackled too hard and unnecessary roughness might end up happening. In hockey, I mean, we're all cheering for the fact that somebody gets really checked or there's a gloves off fight in the middle of hockey.
Right. You'd be disappointed if you went and it didn't happen.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly. Well, and we mentioned hockey. I mean, when Wayne Gretzky was playing for the Kings, the whole team rallied around him always and protected him. And Luc Robitaille went up and just clocked a guy in the back of the head because skated across the ice to clock him, threw down his stick, and went straight to the penalty box because he knew he was going to be in trouble.
Sure, yeah.
And then, for similar reasons, Marty McSorley was actually criminally prosecuted because he went so far overboard, the guy lost consciousness and fell to the ice.
Yeah, I guess it's like maybe it's just like once you get to a certain point, which I just, I don't know, and this is not that episode, but I wonder what made that one that Marty got prosecuted for so heinous that because
it was, I'll tell you, it was a combination of so intentional and with a pretty serious injury involved. People get high sticked in hockey all the time, but there's high sticking that's a penalty, and then there's high sticking that puts you in the penalty box like Luke, and then there's high sticking where somebody falls back and cracks their head on the ice, and now we're at a point where you went way too far.
So I guess to bring it back to wrestling, now Seth Rollins specifically, this thing, like I would say this is closer to the Marty thing, where it's just like it wasn't one chair shot. It was a lot.
It was a lot.
But wrestling, there are many cases where someone will come in, one chair shot, they run out, and that's the end, right?
Right.
So I'm wondering, based on everything we just talked about, like if WWE, and again, we're talking storyline,
right? If
WWE in the storyline is considered like a league, then is WWE the same? Would that be the same as like MLB or NHL, where like they could dole out their own penalties, I suppose?
Yeah, if they were considered a league, then they would be in the same vein as MLB or hockey or football, any of that. But they're not, and that's how they legally get away with hitting somebody repeatedly with a chair so hard that it bends the metal chair.
Well, they're not, but in in wrestling world they are.
Right.
I guess this is where this one is so confusing because it's like we're not talking about Westeros in Game of Thrones where we don't have to make the distinction of, but there was no Westeros.
Right.
They believe that there's an Iron Throne. It's like, yes, there is a WWE,
right?
But there's also a kayfabe WWE, a storyline WWE, and in that world, but let's break our own rules for a second because I think this is interesting. Mm-hmm. Seth Rollins, I think his real name's like Colby Lopez. He's really hitting them. That chair is bending.
Yeah.
Now they all sat in the back beforehand and agreed this is what's going to happen.
Right.
But if you and I agree, I can beat the snot out of you.
Okay.
And a police officer sees it and walks over. Can we say like, no, we choreographed this. Like, I agreed that he could hit me a bunch. It's fine.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, you know, right. I mean, if I was a lawyer and you and Ed Greer were going to have it out in the middle of the park,
sure.
You know, I mean, I would make y'all sign contracts and maybe even video your agreement and like, consent to it and all those things.
We're not having it out.
Right.
Ed Greer and I are going to a park because we want to put on a show for people that think we are. Right. You know, because now we're talking
You're
about
rebooting WWE at that point.
So it's like if Ed's like, okay, yeah, then I'm going to bend over and you're going to hit me with the chair 5 times.
Right.
Like, okay.
Right.
I mean,
and I think that there might be a way to make it legal with enough contract and everything else. WWE is given so much license to get away with that because everybody knows it's entertainment. Everybody knows that it's that. And any of the research on it, you know, any of the complaints on it. I mean, there were some real legal things that people should have gotten in trouble for. They're like, but it's wrestling.
Right.
You know, it's.
So let me ask you this then. There's a great documentary, Beyond the Mat. It came out years ago. And it chronicled the match between then The Rock and Mick Foley, Mankind. And Mick tells him to, but he gets hit in the head with a chair 15, 16, 17 times. A little bit more than he had told. I think The Rock got a little into it, a little excited, and it kind of went a little bit past what they had agreed upon, but not like he never felt like it was malicious. It just was like they got too into the drama of the moment, right? But let's say for a minute that Mick Foley went backstage and was like, that's not what we agreed upon, and you absolutely crossed the line, and I want to take you to court. Like, how would that even work? If it's like, Your Honor, I said 12 chair shots and he did 17. Would the judge at that point be like, dude?
Yeah,
you know?
I think that's the legal argument the judge would make. I think the judge would actually say,
dude.
Dude.
Solid legal.
Yeah. If you were an accountant and you were working at your desk and you got hit with a chair, you'd have a good case.
Right.
You're not. You're working for the circus.
Right.
And you're going to end up getting hit. And you know, if we keep making the parallels between this and football or hockey,
sure,
then someone who gets hit too hard in football and ends up getting injured, they signed up for getting hit. And so I think part of what wrestlers are signing on for in this entertainment, in this big stage, is that, yeah, you know what? Not only are you going to agree to 12 chair hits, but you're going to realize that, man, he might lose count in the middle of that much adrenaline and that much anger or fake anger or getting caught up in the role or anything like that. I mean, we see in movies and TV shows, sometimes someone doesn't pull a punch the way they're supposed to, and real actors get really hit.
There's a saying in wrestling that wrestlers like, don't work yourself into a shoot, meaning like, don't take this all so seriously that you end up actually getting that angry, because that's when, you know, but these guys are professionals, right?
Right. They're
professionals.
professionals.
Yeah.
They
Say it. Say it.
No.
Look, you can't professionally get hit with the chair. When I say they're professionals,
Right.
it's like there have been many times where two guys legitimately hate each other backstage, but once they get in that ring, they're going to protect their opponent, because that's the whole point of being a wrestler, or the professional wrestler is, I'm going to make it look like I'm killing you, when in actuality, like, my job is to make sure you go home at night in as fine a shape as we started.
Right.
That's what a real professional wrestler is. I guess the other question I had, and we talked about this in all the way back in our Jurassic Park episode. We talked about, what would a person have to sign in order to work at a place like Jurassic Park? I guess it's like, in both the storyline and in real life, like, what do you think those wrestling contracts look like? Like, they've got to be novels, right?
Well, yes, or simplified down to the easiest component, which is you are assuming the risk, not only of the storyline, not only of being hit and thrown and beat with a chair 16 times, but you're also assuming the risk that there could be something that surprises you, and you're signing up for that. And you're also assuming the risk of anything else that could happen in the moment, because you're inherently in a dangerous spot. You're intentionally putting yourself in that spot, and there you go. That's maybe a paragraph. That's a page, maybe.
I mean, I would liken it to almost like a hybrid of like an NFL player and a stuntman at Universal Studios.
Yeah,
you know?
a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. But then you add reality TV into the mix as well. I had a client once who went on a reality TV show that I won't name, but the contract said, not only do you give up any rights for how we portray you in this reality show, but we're allowed to defame you, meaning we're allowed to lie. We're allowed to cut it differently and put words in your mouth.
Right.
We're allowed to you're basically just giving up anything.
Sure.
And he got mad because of the way he was portrayed. But the contract said, we can make shit up and you have nothing to say about it. So those sorts of contracts, I'm sure, are what the wrestlers are signing as well.
I mean, he should have parlayed that into a career as like a reality villain, because they make tons of money.
Well, yeah.
Right?
And then just taking a chair and beat somebody.
So we're going to talk. You brought up like two other very interesting things: the authority of Triple H and the on-screen authority, and creative control. Two things that we are going to talk about with other things as we roll along here. So put a pin in those.
Deal.
All right, let's move on to the next kind of thing here. This was a big moment. So throughout the 90s, anyone that was probably millennial, my age, they remember the big thing was the Monday Night Wars. WCW Monday Nitro versus WWF at the time, Monday Night Raw. You'd go to school the next day. Did you watch Nitro or did you watch Raw? Are you a WCW guy or are you a WWF guy?
Wow.
And for a while there, wrestling was the hottest thing on cable. It was 1 and 2 every single week.
Wow.
By the end of the 90s, 2001 to be specific, WCW, they'd made a lot of missteps, some of which we're going to talk about later. But they were going out of business essentially. Once that AOL Time Warner merger happened, the new regime said, we do not want wrestling. Nope, get it out of here. Sold it for pennies on the dollar, and guess who ended up buying it? It was Vince McMahon and the WWF in real life. Now on the show, how do you introduce WCW and all these wrestlers into your fold? Well, they turned it into a storyline. So Vince McMahon, it goes on Monday Night Raw, the night that WCW sold, and he's gloating.
Goes nuts.
The crowd goes wild. It's now WCW versus WWF is going to continue, and now it's going to be father versus son. It was supposed to be a whole thing. It ended up not being great. But that's besides the point. I want to ask, a company, you're buying a company, a multi-million-dollar company. Even if it was pennies on the dollar, it's still more money than I will ever see in a lifetime.
Right.
it's just not possible to get that far down the line and not know that someone swooped out from under you, right?
Well,
Vince sells it great, by the way, because he's just like, what?
Yeah,
but it's just like
almost like some fake tears.
Right, it's like there's no way in real life that someone could undercut you on something that big without you knowing, right?
It could happen.
How?
Honestly,
How?
it could. So Vince, assuming Vince the character.
So we'll call him Mr. McMahon because that's what they called him on the character. Vince the real guy, Mr. McMahon's the character.
Okay, but then doesn't that get confusing when we talk? How are we referring to Shane?
Shane.
All right, Mr. McMahon, Dad McMahon, and Shane. So that character. Why does he believe that the deal is finalized? Why does he believe that he has the ownership? So why does that character believe that? If that character believed that because they signed on the dotted line and they had a valid contract in place, no. The sellers couldn't end up just deciding at the last minute that they're just going to void a contract.
Okay.
I have to believe for purposes of the story that Mr. McMahon jumped the gun a little bit, right?
Okay,
he probably didn't have the ink dry on a contract. I mean, not that it literally has to dry. He probably didn't have every signature done and whatever. He probably had some sort of verbal something or other. But on a multi-million-dollar contract like that, you don't go and announce it until, in the real world, until lawyers have signed off on it. It is completely done. Escrow has changed money. All of that's completely finalized. And I have to believe that Mr. McMahon, the character, jumped the gun.
I mean, that would be in line with that character.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. And so if they had, two different deals going on in the background, there's definitely precedent for companies who are going to sell to have confidentially more than one deal that they're working on at a time, and maybe even playing them against each other, and maybe people know that there's more than one deal on the table, and at the very, very last minute that deal doesn't go through because of reasons, whatever it might be, right? I mean, they didn't like his hair, or they didn't, whatever Mr. McMahon did for him not to be the selected person.
Sure.
And then they pick Shane. So that, I think it all really hinges on whether or not there was a finalized deal, a finalized contract with Mr. McMahon. And if there was, then he could sue for breach of contract and all of those sorts of things. Mr. McMahon could also potentially sue for the embarrassment of...
So that's what I was going to ask. Yeah. Does Mr. McMahon have, now, not saying he would win, but is there any chance you think his legal team would be like, well, we'll go after Shane. We'll go out, this is outrageous.
Well, and think about the CEO at the Coldplay concert, right? Who's suing Coldplay because he got caught cheating on the romance cam. That kind of public embarrassment, if that had really happened in real life to a real Mr. McMahon, would be grounds for lawsuits, would be ground for embarrassment. Again, I think Coldplay is going to win their lawsuit, and I think that the sellers would win their lawsuit with Mr. McMahon over that. But the PR alone for filing the lawsuit is probably worth it, even in this fictional Mr. McMahon world.
I mean, I will say, probably not to your surprise at all, this storyline got even more absurd with the legalities of ownership as things went along. It turned out that Shane, to get the money for WCW, sold his stock to a consortium, which ended up being a returning Ric Flair. It just, it got bonkers real quick. But that's interesting because at the time I was just like, there's just no, even I was in high school, but I was like, there's no way that someone didn't call him ahead of time,
Well, that aspect of it, why wouldn't someone have called him ahead of time? And then it wouldn't be the first time that somebody got set up like that badly to intentionally embarrass them.
I mean, it could have been like in storyline, like maybe that was part of Shane's deal with them.
Right. Not only am I going to buy this, I'm going to buy it more than the value that my dad's putting in.
Right.
And we're going to get all of this extra awesome stick it to ya ness because we're going to surprise him in the middle of the ring and it's going to be great.
All legal?
As the character. Sure.
Yeah.
I think it turns on what that character believed his contract said and where they were on things.
Right.
And I think in that fictional world, the only way that would have happened and been legal is if he had jumped the gun and the deal wasn't final.
Would you be surprised if I told you that Vince and Shane had a match a couple weeks later at WrestleMania?
And they actually fought each other?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, they beat the tar out of each other. Vince had a match with Stephanie, his daughter, and also they beat the crap out of each other. Strange family.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Dark Side of the Ring, great show. Everyone needs to watch it. Yeah. Anyways, let's move on. We talked before with Seth Rollins. You know, he betrays the Shield, goes to, at the time, the authority person was Triple H, right? So he's siding with a corrupt authority. Let's fast forward now. Now the year is 2024, and now we're going to talk about the final boss, The Rock, and his tormenting of Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes, you know, in the wake of John Cena kind of transitioning over to Hollywood, in real life, WWE is in this place where, like, who's our next? You know, we had Austin, we had Rock. Cena carried this company on his back for years. We had Roman. Roman is getting older, and, you know, who's going to be our next guy? And it was going to be Cody. They're going to build the company around Cody, right? So part of that wrestling psychology is the chase, right?
Okay.
You want your baby face to be chasing because that's how we get invested.
Right.
We want to see him defeat the bad guy.
Kind of like the underdog.
100%.
Right. Okay.
And so this is another one where I didn't realize it when I picked this, but this is another one where the lines of reality and the lines of fiction kind of blur together.
Wow.
In real life, The Rock joined the board of directors for TKO, which is the company that now owns WWE. Part of that was he wanted to have a match against his cousin, Roman Reigns, who was the champion for 4 years at that point at WrestleMania. Everyone signed off except for the fans. The fans wanted Cody. And when The Rock came out and was like, I'm going to face Roman, boo, which no one expected. They had to pivot. So how do you pivot when you're getting booed? You become a bad guy, right? So The Rock uses his real life, I'm part of the board, to take it out on Cody, which kind of hit a climax in Chicago. He beat the tar out of Cody. One of the most vicious beatings, probably. Like WWE's divided into eras. They call this the PG era because it went from 2010 to now. Like, they changed to TV PG. The most vicious beating in the PG era by a country mile.
Yeah.
But I want to ask, because we've now kind of talked about how, well, if we consider WWE League, we consider things are maybe a little different than like a secretary or an accountant, whatever you used. I mean, that's still like I mean, I'm not even going to ask a question. You saw the clip. What did you see when he beats up Cody Rhodes outside of his bus? Remember, not just his boss, part of the board of directors of the company.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I don't like The Rock anymore. I don't care if it's acting. Maui, you shouldn't have done that. You lost a fan just from the YouTube, just from a little while ago. It was brutal. It was way over the top. It was excessive. And I'm also not the best person in the world to divorce my like of a person from their character. I think that that Joffrey from Game of Thrones is a horrible human, and I don't care if he's nice now. It doesn't matter to me. Like, it just is. He's always going to be Joffrey, and I'm always going to hate him.
So how can you not like wrestling, Doug? That's the whole point, is to enjoy.
I didn't say I didn't.
Suspending disbelief.
I didn't say I didn't like wrestling. I said I haven't watched wrestling.
Okay.
And I didn't enjoy anything about seeing Maui beat the hell out of some guy and smear blood all in his hair and all that.
Let's go back to what we were just talking about.
Dwayne Johnson, I think you're Maui still. In my mind, you're Maui. How could you do that? How could you do that?
Doug.
And if accidentally I call you out and you want to come and chat with me about it, let's go. I'll have a conversation with The Rock about it. I'm terribly disappointed in him. He did not behave very well.
Sweet summer child.
Sweet summer child.
So let's go back.
How did this episode become so much about Game of Thrones?
Because I threw it out once and somehow
and now we're fixated. Yeah, no, I know.
But very similar. Mm-hmm. Everyone is doing despicable things to all get to the top of the mountain. Essentially, that's what wrestling is, right?
Yes.
Everyone just wants that.
Do they have dragons in wrestling?
There is a guy named Dragunov.
Oh, geez. Okay.
That's his last name.
All right. Well, awesome.
So what are we talking about? Okay, so we were talking about when you sign a contract, whether it's real life or your character, right? Could you just assume that, like, hey, if you're becoming a WWE wrestler, there's some sort of assumption that you've watched wrestling and you know that backstage fights, aggression, retaliation, that's kind of part of the game. So if you sign here, that's a part of it. In that sense, could The Rock be the final boss? Could he be maybe disciplined by the board, but not being a felony, because it's like, well, that's wrestling. This is what we do here.
Yeah.
I'm teaching him a lesson. You know?
If I'm defending, I wouldn't defend you now, Dwayne Johnson, but
no. You still like Dwayne Johnson. You don't like The Rock.
I'm not sure about that. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can separate that anymore. I don't even want to watch Moana now. But all I'm going to think of is Maui with all the hair, like just smearing blood all through the guy's head. But I think that is, if he were to be prosecuted or arrested, sure. I mean, that is his absolute defense. Right. If he were to be arrested, if Dwayne Johnson was to be arrested in the real world for going overboard, then his defense is, yeah, but it's wrestling. We all know it's fake. Right. We all know everybody's all in. Right. You know, it'd be like somebody being upset that they signed up to be in a circus and got exposed to monkeys and lions.
But if the final boss got arrested, like, let's say before the camera cut, the cops rush in.
I think you're giving them some new ideas for the show.
I mean, what if the final boss gets arrested at the end of that clip?
Right.
And you're his lawyer, not behind the scenes, like in the storyline. Right. I mean, what are you gonna? What could you do? You tell him, like, you need to resign from the board, try to blow it over, or is it too late? You know?
In the storyline, I think it's so hard to separate these two things. But if I'm in the real world defending the final boss, right, not defending Dwayne, defending the final boss, I think I make the same arguments. Yeah. Like, hey, you signed up to be a part of WWE, and you know that involves you getting your ass beat from time to time. That's going to happen. Yeah. And I think I make similar arguments. Now, the argument that I would make for Dwayne would be, and also we know it's fake. I couldn't make that argument in WWE fictional world. Right. But the same consent issue, you know, probably think of some Johnny Cochran rhyming kind of a, you know, if you can't take the pain, then stay out of the rain, or, you know, whatever. I don't know. I just made that up off the top of my head. It's pretty good.
Trying to think about,
maybe that's for the Insta.
if you can't bleed, go harvest some seeds. I don't know.
Yeah,
something.
Be a farmer. Sure. Yeah.
Okay, here's another thing that I thought while watching this clip. This beating goes on for a very long time.
It really does.
A very long time.
Yeah.
Nobody comes out to help.
Right.
Clearly, there's a cameraman just standing there watching all this. Is that guy liable for not doing anything? Because there's a difference between I saw it and I didn't help,
right,
versus like I'm getting a close up and The Rock is
right.
Like, is he an accomplice at that point?
Well, it reminds me of our discussion about The Office, right? I mean, in the Office episode, there's a scene where one of the warehouse workers, fictional, but whatever, goes after Pam for doing graffiti on the side of his car,
right?
And the cameraman steps in and protects him, and we talk about all of that. So, if this beating was real in the show, and somebody is going overboard like that in the show and getting almost thrown off the side of the building and having blood smeared all through their hair and and all of those things, and didn't do something to help, I think at some point that there is sort of an accomplice liability with that. I mean, he is continuing to film and he is continuing to be there, and the cameraman is not separated from the story, right? I mean, we're supposed to know that there is a cameraman there, and
right.
and Final Boss goes to look in the camera. So I mean, the cameraman is a part of the character and the set as much as these two guys are. So I think that there's a lot of bleed over into what you would argue in the world of the show, versus what you would argue in real life.
Which is even crazier because after this aired on TV, I don't remember if it was the next day or not, The Rock's social media guy is also off to the side of the cameraman filming, and The Rock, they're like, all right, and we're off the air. And The Rock keeps going for his social media because he's like, what, do you think I was just going to stop because the show's off? Like, he stays in character, which probably wouldn't help your case.
No.
Yeah.
No. That he's even worse. I'm never watching Moana again. I'm so disappointed in you, Dwayne.
I guess the other part of that too is like, is there any so now WWE airs Raw on Netflix, but at the time it was on USA Network. Is USA Network in any hot water for not? Or for airing this, assuming that it's real, right? Right. Let's assume that in the kayfabe world, USA Network just aired a man being brutally beaten for reals and didn't take it off the air, did nothing. Like, are they in any trouble?
Yeah, they would be in trouble for that. So, we've instituted, back in the olden times when we had live TV and all of that, we had a 7-second delay.
Right.
And it was so that if there was something that someone said on the news, you could bleep it out. If there was something that was shown that was graphic and violent, you could cut it before it goes. And some of the shows about shows, like the network and things along those lines, even include that 7-second delay as part of their storylines. You've got 7 seconds that's not very long to make a decision, cut it, go off air or whatever. If USA realized that there was a real assault happening, that happened, and then they chose to air a real assault, I don't think their TV ratings were cleared for that kind of a thing. So
even though they're cable,
depending on where they're rated. I mean, you shared before that it's the PG era,
right?
That definitely exceeds PG.
Oh,
I mean, there's
what happened even within like in real life. That seems like if I was in USA, I'd be like, hey, you're starting to stray a little bit outside of what we agreed upon,
Yeah.
Because what you may have not have saw is The Rock did say, don't f with the final boss. And there was that kind of long bleeped out delay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So it could have been that they chose to use that in that moment because F word would have triggered all of the violations.
I'll
of
bleep
FCC's.
myself out on this.
Yeah, no, it's fine, dude.
It actually
do whatever you want.
This makes me think though. This is a different thing that happened, but just out of curiosity, it just popped into my mind. The NWO was something that happened back in the 90s. It was when Hulk Hogan first turned heel. People were shocked. And at that time, it was 1996, you'd never seen in wrestling up to that point any sort of reality. Everything was very cartoony. It was, the plumber was, that was his gimmick. He was a plumber, or, the garbage man, Duke the dumpster, like they tried something new, which was like, let's rap is hot. Like let's be gangsters. And there was one episode right after the NWO formed where they went backstage and they just assaulted anyone that was back there. And that was the first time too, where it's like, they were bad guys, but they were also beating up other bad guys, good guys. They didn't care. They beat up everybody. This is when WCW was, to save some money, was filming in Orlando in the Disney, in the backlots. Neighbors called the police because they thought that a gang war had erupted. And the police came out, and I mean, I'm Eric Bischoff, who's running WCW at that time. I'm loving it. What great TV.
Right.
But just out of curiosity, when something like that happens, because I'm sure it's happened with just like movies with explosions and stuff, what happens when the cops come out and find out that it's for a TV show or a movie? It's like, are those production companies like in legal trouble for basically wasting the cops' time, or is that on the neighbors and the cops for not realizing, like, come on, guys?
Yeah, it's on the neighbors and the cops, and most good production managers will notify local police if they think something like that's going on, so that there's not a false call.
Right.
And if they went out, I think it would play out a little bit like the scene in Back to the Future where they're wanting to get Doc Brown's permit for the electrical weather experiment.
Right.
I mean, if they came out and they weren't notified in advance and they didn't do a good job of notifying them, then they would look to see, okay, is what's going on here? What's happening? I mean, if they see, what's his face guy that was beat up by The Rock on the ground, they're going to react strongly and quickly until they're satisfied that it's not really an actual crime.
Like, if I see The Rock, I'm instantly going to know it's
right,
entertainment.
Right.
But if I see Cody Rhodes, as popular as Cody is now, he's not John Cena. He's not The Rock. He's not yet a household name. I could easily see someone walking by and just seeing a guy in a suit bloodied and freak out, you know?
Yeah. And they should, and we want law enforcement to do that.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of the whole reason why they exist, is to protect the public like that. So, well, that's what they're supposed to do.
Well, let's move on to this one, because of all the scenarios I pulled, a lot of them have kind of had the reality lines blurred. This one does too, but this one is maybe the most absurd out of all of them, and definitely a sign of the times, because you need to remember 1999, South Park, Jerry Springer. Mm-hmm. It's Crash TV, right? It's counterculture. Being PC, being woke, whatever you think that means, like that was not a thing in the 90s, in the late 90s.
Right.
The storyline
being as shocking as possible.
As shocking as possible. This storyline was shocking at the time, and it has aged like milk since then, because it just like gets more horrifying the more years go by. So we're going to talk about the height of the Attitude Era. We're talking about different eras.
Okay.
This was when Triple H drugged Mr. McMahon's daughter, Stephanie, married her in Vegas. And this was all taking place, she was in Kayfabe, in storyline. She was engaged to a wrestler named Test. They were going to have their wedding as the main event of Monday Night Raw. They took the the ring and they put a big altar in it. Triple H comes out and he says, "Before you guys say I do, let me show you a little video." He had drugged Stephanie at her bachelorette party. He had taken her through a drive-through wedding chapel, kind of like very poorly, probably intentionally poorly for comedic purposes, mimicked Stephanie's voice. They get married. Stephanie's devastated. Wedding ruined.
I hate you forever. Ah.
And then Triple H just puts the cherry on top, and he's egging on Vince or Mr. McMahon because they're in a feud together. And he says, the question isn't did we, but how many times did we consummate the marriage, which is horrifying.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that he was just saying that to egg on Mr. McMahon.
Yeah.
Well, what are you thinking there, Doug? Where do we start on this one?
I'm thinking even in the late 90s, drug-induced sexual assaults weren't very funny.
No, I mean, let's assume that was just a line to get under Vince's skin, and that never happened.
Right.
Just the drugging to the wedding, which I don't think you could actually do, at least not the way that happened, right?
No, I mean, because there have been so many Vegas annulments, right. You know, they're looking to double check a little bit, but are there still people that get drunk and go to Vegas and get married and wish they hadn't? Yeah, I mean, that's still happening today. What was so upsetting to me about it was the idea that it was at a party, the idea that this guy who a bunch of teenagers idolized was bragging about drugging someone and bragging about sexually assaulting someone. And if someone is drugged and asleep and unconscious, like she was depicted in the video, that's they can't, not only can they not consent to be married, they sure as hell can't consent to consummate a marriage.
Sure.
And so to me, that wasn't just oh, I married your girl or I dated your girl moment, which is what I think it was maybe intended to be. I don't know
if I agree with that, but continue.
But, no. I defer to you on whatever it was intended to be.
What I think the intention of the writers of that was like, and actually, I believe Triple H was the one that pitched this idea to Vince, because they were like, we have this wedding segment, but we don't know how do we get out of this? What's the story? What do we do? And I think Triple H was the one who was like, well, what if I come in to get the ultimate heel heat and say, there is no wedding because I already married her.
I think they could have done that and still had the same point. Mm-hmm. They could have showed the two of them on a date in Hawaii. I mean, it wouldn't have been as bad.
Right. I think the point was,
but like to drug her, to show her drugged, to show her unconscious in the car, and then to brag about consummating the marriage after she was unconscious. To me, that crossed the line into just not funny.
No, it's horrifying.
And it was, and unfortunately, sadly, I have seen those cases. I saw those cases when I was a prosecutor. I've seen those cases as a defense attorney, and they're absolutely terrible and horrible. And I question the wisdom of something that is designed to attract teenage boys, to have that be a major part of the storyline.
And let me be clear, I'm not trying to like make excuses or condone. I think what it is, it's like, but it is important to note where we were as a society in the 90s of what, like we would watch Jerry Springer and all this stuff. And like, that was shock TV. That's what we were accustomed to. And I think this was their version of that. I guess my point was like, it's horrifying whenever you pitch that story.
Right.
I don't think they would even pitch that story today.
No, I don't think
90s.
it would get. I don't think it would get any traction at all.
Right.
But I was working in the prosecutor's office at this time, in 2001, 2002. And, so it was just past the late 90s, but we had a case there with a guy who would drug women
Yeah.
and videotape it, and thankfully is serving multiple life sentences in prison now for all of his horrible stuff. But I can pull myself out of the lens of 2025 pretty easily and put myself in that prosecutor chair, because that's where I sat back in those days. And so I can put myself back in that mindset. It's still, to me, is horrifying and a bit irresponsible. And that could be me just being a prude and not getting wrestling.
I think there were plenty of people. It wasn't just this storyline. There's a reason why they call it the Attitude Era. Everything was that. It was, how do we get the biggest shock reaction? So no, the Parents Television Council, like, they went to war over WWF at the time. But I guess, like, okay, taste of the storyline aside.
Yeah, okay.
Just looking at the incident, if the next day in storyline, Stephanie McMahon said, "This is what happened last night. What can we do about this?"
Oh, he's going to prison for life.
Yeah.
Done. I mean, it's as easy as that.
Yeah.
In this fictional world, had that fictionally happened, it's the highest level of sexual assault that you can have. And
even if he hadn't done that, if he had just married her and he had just said that just to get under Mr. McMahon's
So
skin.
if we don't talk about consummating the marriage, and
Right.
now we're just talking about drugging someone and then taking them to go get married, we're still talking about poisoning.
Right.
We're still talking about all of that aspect of it,
Sure.
which is still significant state prison time.
Right.
So, marrying somebody who is tipsy, that's not going to trigger crimes. Drugging somebody so that they're completely unconscious, just in and of itself, is a crime.
So I guess one little asterisk just to add. The next couple weeks after this incident, there was a pay-per-view, WWF Armageddon, where Vince or I should say Mr. McMahon and Triple H were going to have a match. Stephanie comes out. Obviously, she wants Mr. McMahon to kick Triple H's butt, right? But in a shocking twist, she ends up assaulting Mr. McMahon, costing him the match, and she legitimately sides with Triple H because she's done being daddy's little girl. So with that happening, now what does that do to the case that you had just built against Triple H if she's actually siding with him after all this?
Well,
does that hurt the case?
It does, but this is going to get a little dark, but we certainly see victims of domestic violence going back to their loved ones because they're either convinced or they're threatened, or they just realize that the financial aspect of their breadwinner in the household being in prison is not good for the household. And so we actually have jury instructions and laws that say that somebody who changes their story later, there's a reason for that. It's battered women syndrome. And at that point, you shouldn't believe what they're saying now. You should believe what they reported at the time. Now, this is a little different because we're talking about weddings and being drunk, and we're talking about we're drugged, and then what do you do with the video footage? I mean, she could, in character, say, "Oh yeah, we just all made that up in character because I wanted to really stick it to my dad and I was faking crying." So she has to, in the fake world, pretend that she is faking.
Which happens.
Right? And if she pretended in the fake world that she was faking, then
I think you just inceptioned yourself.
I did.
You're in a dream within a dream
within a dream. And then any court, any judge, whether it's in the fictional world or in the real world, would really just be like, really?
Can
Wrestling.
You guys just leave?
Wrestling. Really? Wrestling.
But if you want to have a nice little happy ending to this story, even though this is, we all agree, an incredibly poor taste angle, the real people, Paul Levesque, who is Triple H, that's his real name, and Stephanie McMahon did fall in love behind the scenes during this. Aww. And they got married, and they've been married for over 20 years now because of this storyline.
Totally appropriate. I hope that shows up on the audio.
I seriously could not plan that any better. All right, let's get to our last case study here. Okay. This was the one that we talked about where it started off as a work and it ended up as a shoot all the way up to court. We're talking about Bash at the Beach 2000. Now, I mentioned a couple times that Dark Side of the Ring show. They actually did a whole episode. They're going after Triple H right now. They heard us. I'm keeping all this in. So the Dark Side of the Ring, they actually did a whole episode on Bash at the Beach 2000 where they got... I get it. It was in poor taste. He shouldn't have said it.
Right.
Bash at the Beach 2000.
I hope that our even if anyway.
Yes, I'll make sure I'll turn the audio up so they can hear all the sirens outside.
That's fantastic.
Okay, so the show I keep talking about, Dark Side of the Ring, they did a whole episode on Bash at the Beach where they actually got the participants, and it was 24, 25 years later, and they all still cannot get on the same page about what happened that day.
Wow.
So this is where we talked about creative control and what can you do, what can't you do, and everything. So let me set the stage a little bit here. Hulk Hogan had a very unique contract in WCW. When he signed to come to WCW from WWF, he said, I get creative control. Whatever you guys do with my character, I have to sign off on it. Now, he claimed he never exercised that clause. Hard to kind of believe that that's true.
True.
So when it came to Bash at the Beach, it was supposed to be Jeff Jarrett versus Hulk Hogan for the championship. Nobody could get on the same page about what was supposed to happen. Nobody was happy with what the script was going to be. They finally, depending on who you want to believe, the idea was they finally settled on, how about we do an angle instead of an actual match where Jeff Jarrett comes down, lies down in the ring, you pin him, get upset, take your belt, and leave. Then a couple months from now at Halloween Havoc, which is that was one of their big pay-per-views, you make a surprise appearance, and we've already crowned a new champion because we thought you left. And then it's champion versus champion. Who's the undisputed champion? It'll be great. And we are led to believe that Hulk Hogan said, great, let's do that. So the event starts. That match happens. It happens exactly like that. Jeff Jarrett lays down. Hulk Hogan gets on the mic and he gets angry. He says, this is the reason why this company's in the shape that it's in. Takes his belt and leaves, right?
Right.
Gets on his plane with Eric Bischoff, and by their accounts, they're toasting each other. Wow, that went off great. Everyone bought it. It's a rails. Vince Russo, who was in charge, co-in charge with Eric Bischoff, comes out to the ring, and he starts just absolutely burying Hulk Hogan. Talks about how because of Hogan's phone's blowing up. Did you see this? Did you see this? Hogan gets so angry that he sues Vince Russo in court for defamation, for breach of contract, I think, possibly.
Yeah, sure.
That was the last time we ever saw Hulk Hogan in WCW, was that moment, because WCW, as we've talked about, would be purchased the next year. You watched the clips, and I just kind of want to get your take, because this actually went to court, and a judge threw it out. So I kind of am curious, because we've been talking about this the whole episode, but this is that theory in practice, which is, can you defame a character? Because he's not Hulk Hogan. He was Terry Bollea. He was not Hulk Hogan, but Hulk Hogan theoretically was like IP he owned, I guess.
Right,
Yeah, like
right.
what's the?
I mean, it's really interesting because, you know, if I said that Heinz ketchup, which I think is delicious, by the way, was terrible and awful and just a total piece of shit, I'm defaming a character. I'm not a character. I'm defaming IP, right? But I'm also defaming Heinz and their parent companies and all of those things. So when Hulk Hogan, who I don't know, arguably owns Hulk Hogan. Maybe Terry arguably owns the IP rights to Hulk Hogan.
I think so. I think that estate. Well, now because he's passed, I believe that estate owns. I mean,
yes. Yeah, but like at the time,
yes.
So it would be like me having an agreement that I'm gonna have a bottle of ketchup here on the show. And then me saying, yeah, this bottle of ketchup right here, it's the worst thing ever. Like I would have mustard before I'd have this ketchup every day.
Sure.
And if Heinz had paid us money, they didn't, and we haven't, but then they would sue us for not doing what we said we were going to do, getting sponsorship money back, and all of those aspects. So I think that Terry does have a claim over the harm to his intellectual property being Hulk Hogan. And there is that. However, I know that the judge did the same thing that I did several times on the show, which is it's wrestling.
Yeah.
Get over yourself, you know, because they just assume
that doesn't seem fair though.
It doesn't seem fair.
Yeah.
And especially when you contractually bring somebody in who contractually has that creative control, and then you break that and you breach that, it seems to me just on its face that even if it's wrestling, there has to be some sort of legal rules. It's not like wrestling is the purge and there are no rules ever. I mean, well,
yeah,
but I mean, you know, I mean,
sometimes.
but if The Rock had gone just a little bit too far and killed that guy,
right,
he would be facing murder charges. I mean, there is that for sure. I mean, there's a level in which you can't contract away your rights. I mean, whether, you know, I couldn't sign saying, you know, even if I get killed, I'm good and I release you forever.
Well, but okay, maybe not killed, but certainly wrestlers have been paralyzed.
Right.
Darren Drozdoff, just a freak accident, was dropped on his head and he was paralyzed from the neck down for the rest of his life.
I mean,
that's the same. I mean, he's not going to go after D'Lo Brown, who he was in the match with. It's not.
Well,
you know?
Yeah, because then that's like an accident in the middle of the sport.
Well, you just said if I went too far and accidentally killed Cody, I mean, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if I accidentally killed Cody while I'm cutting him with a razor blade and throwing him off the roof, and if he had slipped and fallen and gone off the roof, I don't think it would be as squeaky clean and just ignoring. I mean, it goes back to the Marty McSorley example of really one of the main reasons why that happened in hockey was because he fell back and hit his head and there was a concussion and it was a more serious injury. I think that's the closest parallel. As we saw, though, the courts just raise their hands and say, you know, you are engaged in an inherently dangerous world.
Sure.
You have decided that you're okay with living in a world where people are going to hit you with chairs from time to time, and you've decided that you're going to be in this environment, and if you're going to do that, then I'm not going to step in as a judge and help you or stop you or anything along those lines. And if I'm the judge also, I'm wondering, okay, at what point am I getting sucked into the show and to all of this nonsense and all of this BS?
Yeah.
Because, you know, if I'm the judge and I'm with people who are professional actors and liars for a living, why am I going to come to the rescue of professional liars and actors who blur reality with their show on a regular basis for fun?
I guess that's the difference is like, you know, we keep mentioning Game of Thrones because it's like, well, in theory, that's what we're watching, right? We're watching a narrative. But the whole point of wrestling is that the narrative doesn't work unless you buy into it. And how do you buy into it? Which is, every time that they go out there, they want you to think, I know that this is all scripted, but I don't think that was supposed to happen.
Right.
And if they can get that moment, that's when wrestling is great, right?
Right.
Because I don't have to suspend my disbelief. I really think that those two guys hate each other, and I want to see them in a match because I think maybe one of them will go off script and go too far, right? It's happened.
Yeah.
It 100% has happened a lot. The whole Rock John Cena feud that they had, John Cena went off script and embarrassed Dwayne, your friend, so badly that I was legitimately worried that either that match wasn't going to happen or he was going to get John back for realsies because it was quite humiliating. If you haven't seen it, go look up the promo where The Rock wrote out his promo on his arm. He's like, I don't need to write my catchphrases on my arm. And you can see The Rock, for once in his career, has no response.
Wow.
He's so tongue-tied.
I wonder how I'll feel about that now that I don't like you, Dwayne Johnson.
So let's get into our fan questions because I have a lot of friends that are wrestling fans, and there are some legitimate questions that they have. A big thing in wrestling, I've never seen it in any other sport or any other entertainment, but a big thing in wrestling, a big segment that they do a lot, is contract signings. There's a big match coming up. The main event tonight for Raw will be the two opponents are going to sign their contracts. There's usually some sort of altercation that will happen at the end. But the most recent one that my friend Danielle, she used to be a paralegal, so she's like, these always drive me nuts.
Okay.
Right before WrestleMania 41, it was going to be Io Sky versus Bianca Belair. They were doing their contract signing. Rhea Ripley comes out, beats the snot out of both of them, signs her name to the contract, and now it has become a triple threat. Pretty sure contracts don't work. Can I just sign my name to any contract and I'm part of it now?
No.
So are you telling me that contracts in WWE are bogus? If
that was the moment that you said, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen and that was real, no, you don't just get to put your autograph on a piece of paper and somehow now you're involved with the contract.
Okay, let's talk about this then. There's one other thing. We've established in WWE continuity that there are contracts and both opponents must sign them. We assume they're for the bigger matches because it would be kind of weird if every night they had to sign something.
Yeah.
I'm just facing off against a random guy. But we have established that for big matches, contracts must be signed by both. That's part of it. There is something in WWE called the Money in the Bank, which is where it's a ladder match, and whoever climbs up the ladder and gets the briefcase, inside is a contract for a title shot.
Okay.
They can cash that in whenever they want. Most people wait until the champion has been beat to absolute shit and can't stand up, and then they'll run down with their briefcase, cash it in.
Title shot.
Do literally just barely cover them, and they've won the title with almost zero effort. But would the Money in the Bank be invalidated because theoretically the champion didn't sign whatever contract is in that briefcase, right?
Well, but I think the contract rules for the champion are this weird set of circumstances that can cause you to lose your title at any time, or that we're all acknowledging
that would be in their initial contract. If I'm fighting for the title legitimately, it's hey, and if you win, there is this Money in the Bank thing that you're just gonna have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, and there could be other time. I mean, yeah, I would imagine that they probably don't put every possible eventuality in the contract. Because
I don't think there's anything on that contract, if I'm being honest with you.
Oh, no. Yeah. That contract in the briefcase is today it's a recipe for chocolate chip cookies.
All right, this question comes from one of my old friends, Joe Starr. Hi, Joe Starr. I love you, buddy. Another thing that happens a lot in only wrestling, I think, which is there are different kinds of matches, right? And depending on the storyline and where you are in the storyline, normally, like, if two wrestlers are in a feud, their first match, it'll be pretty cut and dry. All the rules apply and everything. Their second match is usually going to be some sort of stipulation, right? And a lot of times that might be a no disqualification, meaning use a weapon, have your friend come interfere.
Right.
It's not going to matter. But sometimes, they don't use it a lot, but for storylines, sometimes they'll do what's called an unsanctioned match, which is where it's essentially a no disqualification match. But whoever the authority figure on screen is saying, we want nothing to do with this. If you have this match, it will not be a sanctioned match by WWE, which means we have no liability for what you guys are going to do to each other, which just ups the dramatic stakes, right?
Of course. No holds barred.
Right, but it's no holds barred, but it just makes you think, well, it's going to be even more violent if WWE's like, too violent for us. Yes. Or, they've used it to where there was one year where Seth Rollins was going to go against Triple H, and it was unsanctioned because in the storylines, Seth Rollins' knee was hurt and the doctors wouldn't clear him, but he wanted revenge so bad. It's like, give me an unsanctioned match then if you guys won't let me do it. Joe's asking, is it really, are they really clear of any liability if they're still putting it on their show, they're still advertising it? Like, is it really unsanctioned?
No, it's not unsanctioned. I mean, I have a feeling. I mean, what do? They put a little X through the WWE that's in the corner on the screen.
Most of the time, it's actually fairly lame in the sense of like you would never know it's not unsanctioned, right, unless they told you a million times. It's unsanctioned.
And that would be the reason why a judge would not uphold the unsanctionedness of it. I mean, going back to the fight that traumatized me with The Rock. I mean, that was on some rooftop out in the rain. Right. I mean, it was super dramatic. I wonder if it was ever really even raining.
It was raining that night.
It was.
It was fortuitous.
That was lucky.
Yes.
Because the rain added extra drama.
I think probably it was raining and someone suggests like we really should do this outside.
Instead of inside, let's go to the rooftop. But there's no way that it's completely unsanctioned. If it was completely unsanctioned, then they would just do it in their backyard, right, with a social media phone and their account and whatever, and that would be how they would do it. If they really just wanted to fight it out. I mean, the fact is they probably still got advertising rights. They still probably had an arena full of people, and there's no way it's not off the record.
This question, I think we might have covered it, but let's just take it again.
All right.
Since it's far more dramatic this time from our buddy Ken.
Okay.
I always used to love the Inferno matches. Now, if you're not familiar with an Inferno match, you want to take a guess what it is?
They light the ring on fire?
The entire ropes around the ring are on fire.
I was joking.
Do you want to know how you win?
No. Yes.
By setting your opponent on fire. The only way to win is by setting your opponent on fire. This was a match made famous by The Undertaker and Kane back in 1998. The question being, and we kind of talked about this, but it's like, at what point, like, how far can you push these things if two people are both agreeing to do it? Essentially. Now let's take that in the kayfabe world, right? We're not talking about, because stuntmen do these things, right, and it's very clearly you already know when you see an Inferno match who's going to lose. It's the person who's wearing long sleeves, right? Like literally every single time, it's the person that's wearing long sleeves because they've got stunt stuff wrapped up. But in kayfabe, in the storyline, at what point is this just like, okay, maybe if like can two people just be like, we want to fight each other, we both agree to the rules of the fight, let's fight?
No. I mean, you can't.
Because you can't duel someone
right.
either.
You can't duel someone
right,
either.
Right.
Yeah. So, if we're talking legal rules versus playground rules versus kayfabe rules, no, you can't. You can't agree to all of this stuff. The reason why they get away with it is because it's special effects and it's entertainment,
Sure,
and that's the reason why. So, I would imagine that the reason why they got away with Inferno matches is because it was no different than lighting the stunt double on fire and throwing him through a window for purposes of a TV show.
I guess the question in my mind, I think more of like the evolution of boxing to UFC, which is like boxing. There's the padded gloves and everything, and it's like at some point it must have been like, hey, we're both agreeing that we're willing to take this a step further. We're not going to wear padded gloves. We are going to allow kicking each other, and it's going to be like exponentially more violent.
Right.
So I guess it's like, yes, it's wrestling, and setting someone on fire is the most extreme thing that you could use, but there has to be some level of precedent for like we do allow an evolution of like violence if people agree to do it.
Well, and I think that there is a point in which you almost can't go back, right? Because if they got away 30 years ago in lighting each other on fire, well, then that's precedent for, lighting a guy on fire next week, like literally next week. So I don't know that there's going to be a legal precedent that's going to be able to roll that back.
All right, let's end it here because this is probably the most talked about thing in maybe wrestling history ever, which is Tyler wants to know, want to hear your thoughts on the Undertaker Mankind Hell in a Cell match. Undertaker has said that he thought that he accidentally killed Mick Foley a couple of times in the match. What do you think?
I'm frankly shocked that something like that exists in our world.
Just, by the way, if you haven't seen it, I think the big thing is it was a Hell in a Cell match, which means it's a cage match, but the cage has a roof.
Right.
They got up to the roof. Mick Foley tells the Undertaker, throw me. He gets thrown off of a 20, 30-foot cage through a table with no padding on it. Now he gets back up, he climbs the cage again, and he gets choke slammed. The roof collapses and he falls to the ring.
Right.
That was not supposed to happen. I guess his weight was too much for the cage. And that's where Undertaker in interviews has said, I stood up there. He's like, I've never been more scared in my life. I thought he was dead.
Yeah.
And so he was not dead. He was very, very concussed, but he kept telling him, like, let's keep going. He's like, Mick, let's go home. Go home in wrestling means get to the end of the match. He's like, let's go home, let's go home, let's go home. And Mick just kept going, but
right, and then Mick brings thumbtacks to the stage.
He brought thumbtacks and poured him out of the ring. He gets slammed a couple times in the thumbtacks.
That sounds painful.
From all accounts of wrestlers that have taken thumbtacks, it's not because this has happened before.
So this is a thing. Thumbtacks in the ring.
It's not common. It's not common.
It's not common, but it's not the only time this has happened.
No, I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I've seen it.
Okay.
But apparently, according to wrestlers, it's not going in that hurts as much as going backstage and pulling them out that hurts.
Okay.
But anyways.
My thoughts are this is horrible and terrible, and shame on you for making me do this episode.
Let's talk...
I'm traumatized. What the hell? How is this entertainment?
Wrestling, baby.
And this is the reason why I'm going to fall back on the same analysis that we've been talking about through this whole thing. And it's the analysis that the judge in the Hulk Hogan lawsuit gave, which is, it's wrestling, man. I mean, if you can do that,
right?
What can't you do?
Well, let's. I hate to go this way, but let's say that went very. A dark way,
right.
And Undertaker was right. That was an accident. And unfortunately, an accident did happen a year later with Owen Hart, where he fell in a stunt that went wrong. But let's say, for the sake of this, that something had happened. And is Undertaker Mark Calloway, would he be legally in trouble for that? I mean, it's like he didn't know that the cage was supposed to break.
Right.
You know?
Well, and I think the difference here is that there's got to be an angle where you can, and even watching the clip, you can see every once in a while, him talking.
Yes.
I think we're talking about a completely different scenario when he's saying, throw me off the top of the 20-foot cage versus please stop. I can't do this anymore. And I think that would probably be the line. If this guy was not egging him on,
right,
then I think there's some liability. I really question, clearly at this point, this guy is concussed, and there's an agreement on that. He's not in his right mind. He won't stop the fight. I think that there is at some point a responsibility for the Undertaker to say, time out. We're way past the point of our stunts and our gags and everything like that.
Yeah.
And if he was that rattled at the top of the stage and continued fighting in the ring and then something happened in the ring, I would think that would be the line.
I do know that Mick has talked about how he went through the curtain and Vince McMahon was waiting for him, and Vince was like, I want to thank you for everything that you've done for the business. I never want to see anything like that ever again, or like I can't have you here.
Right.
Like, it was both like this gratitude for the amazing thing that they had just done, but also like, dude, like we are so close to, I'm going to go to jail.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, this would be the point where I do the speed round, but is there anyone I've talked about where you're like, yeah, I would take that client?
No,
not a single one.
Not a single one. Although here's the flip side of that.
Yeah.
I could get anybody off on any crime that they were accused of for anything on any wrestling show by saying, it's wrestling. That's my legal brief.
Do you wish that
it's
real
spelled
life was that easy?
EHHH exclamation mark question mark and then wrestling, with maybe even a little drawing a picture of Doug going,
I mean, I potentially just gave you a whole new strategy for a lot of your clients. Like, Your Honor, I thought that they were doing a wrestling match.
Right. He thought he was in a wrestling match.
Yeah. Look,
I'm sorry. I just don't get it. I don't understand.
Well, you know what?
I don't have to.
You don't have to.
No.
Because this is one of the most popular shows still.
It certainly is. You know what I think we should follow this up with? Disney princesses.
Oh, yeah. That'll be a nice little trilogy. And/or pro wrestling.
Disney princesses.
Next week we'll do like Beauty and the Beast or something. Which I think has even worse Stockholm Syndrome things than Stephanie and Triple H, but that's just me. If you guys want if you want to watch Doug squirm, just leave in the comments about how badly you want a volume 2 of this, because we didn't even scratch the surface of what we could have talked about. Doug, thanks for being a good sport.
No problem. Anytime.
Actually, thank you for being a good sport entertainment, because that's what they call wrestling.
Wow. Well, if we do a volume 2, you won't be able to see me in this chair.
Oh my God, I love it. I got it. We'll see you guys next week.